We begin with a frightening new report today revealing hundreds of illegal immigrants have crossed the border into the United States, and they're being smuggled in by an ISIS-linked human smuggling network. 50 of them are somewhere in our country. No one knows exactly where they are. No one knows exactly who they are. No one knows exactly if they'll ever be found. Yet in about 90 minutes, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas is set to hold a news conference at the southern border to brag about President Biden's border accomplishments. It's mind-boggling. They think we're nuts. I'm Harris Faulkner. It's Outnumbered time, and my co-hosts are here, Emily Compagno and Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining us today, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, Cheryl Casoni, and former New York Congressman and New York gubernatorial candidate, Lee Zeldin. Well, it's new and it's unsettling. An NBC report shows the Department of Homeland Security is now searching for 50 of those illegal border crossers. And we know that they were released into the United States when they reached the border because they were not on the government's terrorist watch list. According to the NBC report, they were among a group of more than 400 people that the DHS had actually identified as, quote, subjects of concern because they were brought in to our nation by an ISIS-linked smuggling network. Some of them who were arrested reportedly have been removed from the country. We need a number on that. We need details. We need to know who these people were. We want to know more about that ISIS smuggling group. You'd think Mayorkas would talk about that when he speaks in a little while. Don't hold your breath. The remaining of the group have been found in some places across 17 states in the United States, and we're told they could soon be arrested. The heightened tensions over a potential terror network come as the number of suspected terrorists reaching the United States borders has spiked exponentially. And I say borders plural because we never really talk about the northern border, but we should. All of this is happening under the Biden administration. The Biden border crisis is now the Biden border disaster. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas is standing behind Biden's policies.
It is indeed moving in the right direction. The fact of the matter is our policy is working. Our policies are working. We are conducting more removal flights than ever before. We are moving people through the system, and those who do not qualify are being removed or returned more rapidly.
You know who's not being removed? Mayorkas. It's harder by the day to figure out how they couldn't kick him out. Look, he got impeached, with a vote, but the Senate has to decide whether or not he loses his job, and he still has it.
Yeah, what a failure. What a failure. When you look at the number that has crossed the southern border, including gotaways, it is over 5 million. And that's just the southwest border, so the number's higher. And what's appalling to me, do we have a vetting system? Like, look at that image. Do we have any sort of vetting system? They say we do. It doesn't appear we do. Several women have been killed. Now you have migrants who are apparently linked to ISIS that we're now looking for. But here's the cherry on top of all of that, the data that I just shared with you. A White House memo that they just put out from Andrew Bates to allies and interested parties. Check this out. They said that Biden took decisive executive action, and as a result, unlawful border encounters have plunged. They're literally bragging today at the White House about what they've done. And when you check out the New York Times, they say that Biden plans to go on the offensive on immigration on the debate. How do you go on offense when women have been killed? Jocelyn Ngare, Laken Riley, Rachel Moore, and you plan to go on offense? No, sir. Run far away from this issue.
Look, last hour, Tom Homan, former acting ICE director under Trump, was with me, and I was almost in tears by the end because he was telling us things about what those last 30 minutes would have been like for those American victims, those women and young girls. The point is terror, he said. And so they make the last few minutes hell. And some of it was, we know that they recorded some of it. What do you think they do with those videos? Sounds like recruitment.
This isn't the last of it. This is going to keep happening. And we're not talking about what has happened since January of 2021. We're talking about what's happened over the course of the last 2 weeks.
Right.
12-year-olds, 13-year-olds here from coast to coast, New York City to LA, Atlanta, and elsewhere. Mothers who are getting raped and killed. And they're going to mobilize into gang activity. We saw how MS-13 was building up. President Trump came in and really tackled it when he came into office in 2017. These groups are going to continue to engage in activities that have led to all sorts of other crimes that are getting committed. Now, who is going to fact check what is coming out of the White House right now? Actually, look at the Inspector General of the DHS saying that there is not sufficient vetting and screening that's going on right now. That's their own Inspector General. And you need to know at the border who someone is, that they believe what they say they believe, and that is done through documentation and vetting and interrogation. And if you don't have enough documentation, that means that your interrogation has to pick up, has to be more intense, it has to be more thorough. What you can't do is say, okay, we don't have enough documentation, we can't do enhanced interrogation, so we can't confirm any of this stuff, so we'll just let you in, we'll figure it out later. It is a flawed security process that even the Inspector General is calling out.
Cheryl.
Well, look, we've already, the warning signs have been flashing for months about this, going back to the issue with ISIS, okay? And ISIS-K in Afghanistan, which Christopher Wray himself has testified he is concerned about. Who is coming into this country and what are their intentions? We just heard from Michael Morrell. He wrote that op-ed, remember, in Foreign Affairs. It was on June 10th. Here's what he said. I'm going to quote him. It is not difficult to imagine a person, even a group with the intent to do harm, slipping across a border where U.S. officials reported 2.5 million encounters last year, then purchasing assault rifles, carrying out a large massacre. There is no shortage of locations across the U.S. where hundreds, if not thousands of people gather on a regular basis, and all may be ready targets for those seeking to incite terror. And he goes on to say that we face a serious threat within our borders because of what's happening at the southern border. Is ISIS-K making money off this? Yes. ISIS-K is also making money off the drug trade in Afghanistan. They need the money. This is how they're doing it. Wow. And where are these people now? Can't find them. And we've had too many warning signs, and it just keeps getting ignored.
So, Emily, also last hour, Tom Homan shared with me how he gets to 7,000 to 8,000 people coming across the border a day. And he called it a shell game that the U.S. government is now playing under Biden's, most recent executive actions and orders. And what he says is they are now legally allowing some people who would normally go between the checkpoints and sneak in to qualify as counted among those who are not illegal now. So they're processing them differently. And that's how they're able to say, well, we didn't pick up 2,500 people, which is Biden's number, because not that many illegals were coming. But if you change somebody's status, you don't really know who's coming.
We saw them playing a similar shell game, remember, with the unaccompanied minors, where they just put them under different agencies. So they were able to say, oh, no, we just have 5 because there's 350 at this next agency up the chain. This is frightening. We cannot overstate the implications and the risk associated with these lost individuals associated with ISIS. ISIS, one of the most prolific, dangerous, and wantonly cruel terrorist organizations in the world. For the International Criminal Court, which this administration likes to support, their main prosecutor called them crimes of unspeakable cruelty, mass execution, sexual slavery, rape, other forms of sexual, gender-based violence, torture, mutilation, recruitment via videos. The list goes on, and the direct threats and the direct implications to Americans, it's absolutely frightening. Keep in mind, you talked about the northern border earlier. Just in December, we reported that 85% of those nabbed that were on the terror watch list were on the Canadian border. We've been shouting it from the rooftops this entire time. So yes, the entire global intelligence and national security community have been raising alarm bells quite clearly for some time. It is the White House and this administration that refuses to look Americans in the eye and say, yes, under our watch, your lives are now threatened. And now ISIS? I can't imagine anything worse.
So we've got this huge CNN presidential debate coming up that will be simulcast on Fox. Emily, do you honestly think that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are going to be up to speed enough to do what you just did? Because this is the issue that Americans say they care about.
I hope they do.
I hope so, too. Hope is not a strategy.
Not holding my breath.
Steady up, Buttercup.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.